everyone who's currently watching this right now, whether it's while it's live streaming or later, I know with absolute certainty that there is only one, and we are each a magnificent, individualized expression of that one. This is a time of year that is just so incredible, so marvelous. There's every tradition that honors this presence and power that we call God has some type of celebration of life, of light, of love over these 6 or 8 weeks at the end of each calendar year. So we're coming to the end of the calendar year. We're coming up onto the winter solstice. And one of the things I know with absolute certainty is that with the winter solstice, the days are getting shorter and shorter until solstice happens. And that's the shortest day of the year, the shortest amount of light that we have here in the northern hemisphere. And then the days start getting longer. But we think of it as darkness because it feels like it's still dark, but in reality, after that, we're on a new adventure. We're gaining light, we're gaining love. And so as we come up to this end of the year, the winter solstice, and every other celebration that's going on at this point in time, it's wonderful for us to take some time and sit and be with our own self right here where we are, and listen to that still small voice inside of us. The meditation that Carolyn led this morning is a beginning of that. It's looking at, noticing, how far have I come? How much am I becoming my true nature? One of the things that we know we believe in this this philosophy, this way of life, this teaching that we call science of mind, is that heaven is not a place. Heaven is not some place that I go to at the end of my physical existence on this planet. Heaven is a state of awareness of my true nature. Heaven is the state of awareness of each individual's true nature. And that we experience heaven to the degree that we are conscious of this true nature. And so when we sit back and reflect on the past year, when we sit back at any point in time and reflect on where am I experiencing this freer and fuller expression of my true nature, of the God that is in me, of that Christ consciousness that is the truth of who I am, I can just relish in the joy of noticing what I am becoming. I can relish in the joy of noticing the letting go of that which inhibits me. And I can also turn that to every situation, every person, everyone around me, and have that joy of noticing the becoming of others, the others becoming this freer and fuller expression. For it is when we become aware of it, when we are conscious of it, the more we become conscious of it, the more we experience it. And as Nils said, the more he became conscious of this oneness, this true nature of all that is, the more he started seeing it, the more he started experiencing it. And that is the truth for each and every one of us. Because the one thing, there is, in any moment in time, there is only one thing happening ever. It doesn't matter what it appears to be in my human eyes, my ego consciousness. What is actually happening in every moment is that God is in and as each and every moment. There's a fullness of the Spirit that is all around us, awaiting our notice. And that is in every situation. Gary had us take a moment of silence for all of those who experienced this power of nature to come in and just create chaos, to wipe out buildings, there were some people who lost their lives. And as terrible, as tragic as that seems to us, as the effect of what happened, there is within there a God. And what Gary was doing in that moment of us sending love, sending our peace, sending harmony to that area, was acknowledging there's only one life, there's only one mind. And when we acknowledge love and joy and that there is God present in everything and send it there, it will raise up, it will show itself. Wonderful things will happen for people in those situations. And so in this time of endings and new beginnings, just take that moment and sit in the stillness and notice the God that is becoming. There's a note that I have, like, sitting right here in front of me, that to remind me to just remember what I am, and who I am will fall out of it. When I remember my true nature, when I remember that I am this Christ consciousness, that I am, or as Saint Paul says and I forget which of the letters, he said, each of us has within us the mind that Jesus had within. We are all using that same mind. We have that same ability within us. The more we acknowledge it, the more we recognize it, the more it becomes in expression. Ernest Holmes in Science of Mind on page 292 says, "We are not becoming this life, but are now in and of this life." We're not becoming this life. We are now in and of this life. There is no other life. God is not becoming, God is. God is not growing, God is complete. God is not trying to find out something, God already knows. And when we relax into that, when we acknowledge that, when we notice in joyful glory those moments where we have that connection, where there's no feeling of separation, we let go and just flow with life, it's incredible things happen. Incredible things happen to us, incredible things happen as us. We have intuitive insight into situations. We know what to do, even though we don't think we know what to do. And life flows. It flows evenly. It flows effortlessly. There is, we have a saying, there is only one life, and that life is God. And in Science of Mind, in the whole chapter on finding the Christ within, Ernest Holmes says in many, many different ways that there's another piece of that. There's only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. And the key to it is knowing that that life is my life now. In this moment is God. In the next moment to come is God. In the next moment after that, and the moment after that, and the moment after that is God. And when I am in that now, when I am staying in this moment, I allow myself to be that which I am, my true nature. I become a necessary part of the divine unfolding. One of the things that came to me as I was preparing for this was like being on a roller coaster, and we're on that upward, up, and it's the time to take notice of who and what we are and where we are, and how far we've come before we hit the crest of that hill and start all over again, and allow ourselves to unfold this Christ consciousness even more. It's setting us up for that next adventure. And this pause is necessary. You know, as if I'm sure most of you have been on a roller coaster, and as you're coming down, it's a really great ride, and then you start slowing down, and you become a little slower and slower until you reach that top. And so before we move over into that newness of light returning a few minutes every day after the solstice, of a whole new year beginning as we reach the end of 2021 and move into 2022, let us pause and understand our necessary part, how necessary each and every one of us is. Because what I know is, if you're hearing my voice right this moment, you are a magnificent, individualized expression of the One. You are God expressing as only you can express God. There's no one, I don't care how many billions of people are on this planet. You are the only you that can express God as you can do. And the more I become aware of that, the more I understand that, the more glory I see in that, the more I recognize that, the easier it is for me to make those decisions to be what it is I am. In the Science of Mind magazine in April of 1996, so this is there was a quote from Ernest Holmes that just really, really resonated with me. God is our life now. It is not a life that we are going to attain someday. It is our life. We are not gradually becoming unified with God. We cannot be separated from God. We shall never have to unify with God, but we shall have to recognize that we are not separated from God. Then anything in our experience that appears to be separated will flow together. It will rush together as the mountain torrent rushes across a valley to join the ocean. And that's an important point. That's a perspective that can sometimes be a challenge to accept. I am never separate. And in Nell's reading, he says, there is ever another who walks with them. There is never a time when I am actually separate, because I can't be, because I am of that divine. What happens is life gets in the way, my ego gets in the way, and creates the appearance, the feeling of separation. And once I recognize that I am feeling separated, that I'm feeling separate, that I'm feeling not of this divine infinite that is within me, that is me, that is the core of my being. As soon as I recognize that and I let it go, and I come back to knowing in this moment I am not separated, then everything starts to flow. Everything flows together, and there is no more appearance of separation. And if there's one thing that you can take away with you today, it is remembering you are a necessary part of the unfolding of the divine. Here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we have a vision of what this world that works for everyone looks like. And there's actually a document that has many statements of what does that look like. And one of them is that we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers his or own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. It's because when I recognize that there's only one, and if we were in person, I would ask that question that all of my students know, how many are in the room? And some people will look around and start trying to count, and then a majority of people who, if you've had my class, you immediately jump out and say, one, there's only one. There's only one in this room. And it's the magnificent multiplicity of the unity of the one that we see. We see the many facets of that one in everything that we do. And when we recognize that, we recognize that a world that works for me, a world where my life flows, causes it to flow for everyone else. I'm not doing this out of ego. I'm not wanting, I am knowing. I'm not coming from a sense of lack and separation. I'm coming from a sense of knowing oneness, of experiencing oneness, knowing that there is no separation. And that then the good that I desire for myself is the good that is for everyone, everywhere. And again, heaven is a state of consciousness. It's a state of awareness of this truth of ourselves. So I invite you to just for a moment right now, just pause and feel that oneness that you are, that no separation, that wholeness, that being part of, being of all that is, and that you are a necessary part of that. And just drink it up and let it wash over you and through you. I heard someone at one point say, let yourself be marinated in this oneness. And know that you are God right here, right now. And just be still and know that. Be still and know that you are God. That you are allowing this joyful song and this light of God to shine through you and to bring to everyone and everything that you encounter this light, this love, this beauty. You can arrive at this heaven within and experience this delight of, if you will, God unfurling like a flag, unfurling itself as you in every one of your experiences. There's one of my favorite books to read when I want to be reminded of, in the moment, something may not feel like it's a good thing, but when I look back on it, it is a book by Wayne Dyer, called I Can See Clearly Now, where he takes a look at his life and sees the God in all of these situations. He was a child whose mother gave him to an orphanage back in the day when orphanages were still around. She was a single mother of a number of children, and Wayne was one of the children that she gave up, did not keep. That's really hard for a child to understand. It's hard for an adult to understand. But over time, what he understood is what that did for him. What was the gift in that? That's what allowed him in his ability, that allowed him to develop his ability to go inward and to look within and find that God within. And it's just full of so many stories that, and it always catalyzes me to go back and take a look and see that journey that I've been on and the progress that has been made. And I say progress very lightly, but this unfurling of God that's already there. It's just me taking away that which is anything but. A vision I had long before I came into Science of Mind even was that we each are a crystal, and that crystal is that which puts out the light of God. And over time, that crystal gets mud and guck and yuck stuff all over it. And it's our job to clean that off. And that is the unfolding. That is the becoming. That is the joy of noticing. How much of that has moved away? How much of that has left us? So there's another quote from page 369 in Science of Mind. And this is a challenge that I give you, an opportunity that I invite you to share in. Let us learn to be still and let the truth speak to us, through us. To be still and know that the inner light shines. So remember that we're at the end of a cycle right now. This is a time where we can reflect, a time to pause. Even the natural world is pausing right now. Leaves are falling from trees. Trees are going dormant. I live in an area which is full of oak trees. Therefore, we have a gazillion squirrels everywhere. And I didn't know squirrels came in quite as many colors as they do here. And they're preparing for going into that space within, collecting up the abundance of acorns. It's a time for us to reflect like the tree and go in and reflect on ourselves. And my call to action for you is to joyfully and graciously and gratefully notice you're becoming a freer and fuller expression of the God in you, and how necessary you are to that unfolding in the world. I love each and every one of you. Namaste.